The old folks around here love their stories. Tales whispered around crackling fires, meant to chill the bone and ward off the night. Most I dismissed as folklore, the ramblings of isolated minds. Skinwalkers, they called them. Shapeshifters. Demons lurking in the woods, preying on the unwary. I scoffed at the time. Now the memory of those whispers haunts me. I came to these woods seeking solitude, a chance to escape the city's clamor, to find peace in the quiet embrace of nature. My cabin stood at the forest's edge, a solitary sentinel against the encroaching darkness. The woods seemed welcoming at first, a tapestry of green and brown, sunlight filtering through the canopy. How quickly the light fades, how easily the shadows lengthen, twisting familiar shapes into lurking horrors. Twilight descended, painting the sky in hues of blood, orange, and bruised purple. The air grew heavy, thick with the musk of damp earth and decaying leaves. Silence pressed in, broken only by the distant screech of an owl. It was then I first felt it, a prickling sensation at the nape of my neck, as if I were being watched. Dismissing it as nerves, I retreated inside, bolting the door against the encroaching night. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows that writhed in the log walls. I tried to read, but the words swam before my eyes. The silence outside was no longer peaceful. It was expectant, pregnant with unseen menace. Then I heard it, a low sound from deep within the woods, a guttural growl laced with a hunger that chilled me to the core. My blood ran cold. The hair on my arms stood on end. It was not the sound of any animal I knew. It was something altogether more primal, more sinister. My heart pounded against my ribs, like a frantic bird in a cage. I crept to the window, peering into the inky blackness that lay beyond the porch light's feeble reach. First, I saw nothing, then a flicker of movement at the edge of the light, a shape tall and gaunt, half hidden among the trees. It moved with an unnatural fluidity, a grotesque parody of human grace. As I watched, it turned its head, and for a fleeting moment I glimpsed a pair of eyes burning with a cold, malevolent intelligence. Eyes that saw me, that marked me as prey. Terror, raw and consuming, flooded through me. I stumbled back from the window, knocking over a lamp in my haste. The crash seemed to echo through the small cabin, amplifying the silence that followed. I stood frozen, listening for any sign that the creature outside had heard. Silence. Then, a soft, scratching sound at the door. Slow, deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. I backed away from the door, each creak of the floorboards sounding deafening in the stillness. I fumbled for my phone. The battery icon blinked accusingly. Dead. I was alone, trapped with whatever lurked outside. The scratching came again, more insistent this time. Then a thud. Something heavy slammed against the door. Panic seized me and I had to get out. I threw open the back window, ignoring the shards of glass that bit into my skin. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but there was no time to hesitate. I scrambled out, the smell of pine needles and damp earth filling my nostrils. Behind me, I heard the splintering of wood as the creature finally broke through the front door. I didn't look back. I ran blindly, crashing through the undergrowth, my lungs burning with exertion. Thorns tore at my clothes, branches whipped at my face, but I didn't dare slow down. The sound of my own ragged breathing was lost in the cacophony of my pursuer, the crashing of branches, the guttural growls that seemed to shake the very ground beneath my feet. The cabin seemed miles away, but I pushed on, fueled by adrenaline and terror. Trees thinned, and I stumbled out onto the dirt road leading back to town. Relief washed over me, brief and fleeting. My pursuer was nowhere to be seen, but the forest seemed to press in. Every shadow, a potential hiding place. A pair of headlights appeared in the distance, growing steadily brighter. Salvation. I waved my arms, shouting, until my voice was hoarse. The car slowed, then stopped. I stumbled towards it, my legs shaking with exhaustion. The driver, a young woman, rolled down the window a fraction, her eyes wide with fear. "Please," I gasped, "you have to help me. Something..." She glanced nervously over my shoulder, then back at me. "Get in," she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't need to be told twice. I scrambled into the passenger seat, slamming the door behind me. We sped off down the road, leaving the forest behind us. The woman, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles were white, didn't speak until we were safely out of the woods and speeding down the highway. "What was it?" she finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. I shook my head, unable to articulate the horror I'd witnessed. "I don't know," I breathed, "but it was hunting me." She nodded, her face pale in the dashboard lights. "They say the woods are haunted," she murmured, "that something lives out there, something evil." I didn't need to ask what she meant. I had seen it with my own eyes. The memory of those burning eyes, the guttural growls, the relentless pursuit sent shivers down my spine. The first rays of dawn found us huddled in a brightly lit diner, miles away from the woods. The normalcy of it all, the chatter of other patrons, the smell of coffee and bacon, the reassuringly mundane headlines on the newspaper, did little to ease my fear. Every time the door opened, I found myself glancing nervously over my shoulder, expecting to see that grotesque shape silhouetted in the doorway. The woman, whose name I learned was Sarah, drove me back to my apartment in the city. She insisted on coming inside, staying with me, until the sun was high in the sky and the streets were bustling with life. As she left, she gave me a hug, her grip surprisingly strong. "Be careful," she whispered, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. "It's not over yet." I didn't argue. I knew deep down that she was right. The creature might have been driven back into the shadows, but it was still out there, lurking in the recesses of my mind. Every creak of the floorboards in my apartment, every whisper of the wind outside my window, sent a jolt of fear through me. The rational part of me tried to dismiss it as paranoia, the lingering effects of a traumatic experience. But a primal instinct, honed by generations of survival, whispered a different truth. I was being watched, hunted, and the woods, I knew, would never let me go.